Hello everyone, welcome to another energy reading of the week. I'm using my Healing Burnout deck and we're going to tune into the energy that is most supported, or what the energy supports the most this week for us to focus on in order to reach new levels of success without burning out. That's the idea. I'm a sustainable success coach, which means I help people reach new levels of success by helping them set some healthy foundations. There's actually 4 pillars in my framework, so that they don't have to sacrifice their health or their relationships to reach the next level of success. I suppose I've experienced that myself. I've reached levels of success where I didn't have the foundations, and it's not a pleasant experience. So I really love to support people do the same. Spiritual tools can be so powerful in business. They can help us in so many different ways. So let's see what the energy supports. Let's pull one card. And, oh, that's interesting. The card that popped up today is self-doubt. And it's encouraging you to stop doubting yourself all the time. So this is more from the mindset point of view. I would put it into the pillar of courage. We have to have the courage to act on our beliefs, our ideas, and of course courage is the counterpart of self-doubt. Now, self-doubt, a certain level of self-doubt is healthy, because it stops us from being vain, overconfident, and it stops the ego from barging in and ruining everything. But when the self-doubt is quite high, that can actually be the ego playing a card to try and sabotage your efforts. Most people think the ego is only the overconfidence, but it can be the opposite of overconfidence, and that's when you have chronic self-doubt. Now, I do have chronic self-doubt, but my chronic self-doubt comes more from having experienced abuse for a very long periods of time, where I had people, and I'm not gonna point fingers, but people telling me that I was stupid, that I wasn't funny, that I didn't know anything. And when you're constantly hearing this discourse, even if to start with you don't believe it, it erodes your confidence. So I am rebuilding my confidence at the moment in many different ways. So I suppose my experience can show you that it's possible to rebuild your confidence. But what you need to do to rebuild your confidence and to step out of that self-doubt is to take micro steps of courage. Make them as small as possible. So it could be that in a networking event, you're going to approach someone that you don't know. I do that. It takes a lot of courage on my part. So even though I call it a micro step, it can feel like a huge step. It could be that if you just join a new Facebook community, you introduce yourself. Self-doubt often comes in when we're afraid of rejection, and that's a perfectly natural fear. You know, we are social creatures for the most part. Even introverts are social creatures. It's just that they get more depleted if they don't have the time to replenish after social interaction. So we're all social creatures. Nobody wants to be rejected. It's not a fun experience. And yet some people get rejected more than other people, and then that can affect their self-doubt. And I will say, for a big part, the neurodivergent community suffers a lot of rejection, and they might suffer more from self-doubt, even though they're incredibly talented and have a lot of skills and a lot to offer the world. But when you've been rejected for a long time, that can really affect your self-esteem and your confidence. So if that's the case for you, I would encourage you Right, so this is an exercise I did recently. I haven't finished the second one. I'm going to be completely transparent, but I finished the first one and I never thought I could do it. So I was asked by my business coach to list 100 reasons why I'm awesome. And I never thought I could achieve 100 reasons, but with a little bit of nudging, and because I really wanted to complete that task, I did it. And then the second, and so do that, please grab a piece of paper and start writing all the reasons you're awesome. Now, if you've been raised a Catholic like me, it's going to feel really uncomfortable, because I got constantly told off as a child for bragging or even feeling happy. Like, what are you feeling happy for? You know, you're born in sin. You're a sinner. You should repent. You should always feel miserable. So, yeah, for those of you who have been raised as Catholics, and there might be other religious traditions that make you feel the same, you are going to have to unpack all that conditioning and challenge it. So a good way to challenge conditioning is something I recommend to my clients quite often, which is the 4 questions of Byron Katie, which start with, is it true? Are you sure? How does that make you feel when you think the thought that you think? And who would you be without the thought? So that's an idea. And then you turn your thought around. So suppose I had the belief that I'm going to try and use something that's not too controversial. I had the belief that I'm not a good public speaker. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. I've never really done public speaking, especially if I haven't done it, then I can claim that I'm not a good public speaker. However, until you've tried, you don't know. Some people are surprised by how good they are at public speaking, even on the first go. Now, the second thing is, are you sure? No, you can't be sure until you try. That was the whole point. So how does that make you feel when you say to yourself, I'm a rubbish public speaker? Now, it depends if you attach a value to that. Obviously, if you don't attach any value to being a public speaker, you don't care. But pick something that you care about. Suppose you want to be a kind person, but you don't think you're actually that kind. And I know what lives in my head is incredibly unkind, so I can relate to that. How does that make you feel to think that you're unkind or that you're a rubbish public speaker? Well, probably it's going to have some consequences as well. It's not just how you feel, but you might not take opportunities to speak. Or if you think you're unkind, you might shy away from people because you're afraid to hurt them. And that isolates you, which might, hit against the goal of you being more social, having more friends. Who knows? So you constantly want to challenge these thoughts and this self-doubt that comes up. I'm not interesting. That's a good one, actually. Nobody will want to talk to me. I'm not interesting. Well, how do you know if you're not interesting until you talk to someone? Unless everybody that you ever met always told you that you weren't interesting. Now, it could be that everybody has told you, but then maybe you weren't talking to the right people, because some people will find you interesting. And then there's also the opportunity for you to learn to be more interesting in how you present yourself. That can be learned. There's a way to make yourself more interesting. So that's a bit the energy this week is going to help you tackle that self-doubt so that you bring it down to a manageable level. Now, I want to say that probably none of us can completely eliminate self-doubt. And if we did, we might turn into psychopaths. So it's probably not a good idea. What you want is to bring it to a manageable level and to have a process, a mental process when the self-doubt comes up, where you can say, I see you, you are not me, and understand why this crops up. Maybe be curious, what's the context? When is it that your self-doubt raises the most or comes out of the woodwork? And start being curious and taking notes and observing and becoming more self-aware, because self-awareness brings power. Because once you become self-aware, you're more in control. You can talk to your self-doubt. You can talk it down even. So that's me for this week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll come back again next week. Bye for now.